Her lips which whisper like reeds on the wind, wet with moisture, sprung from a well deep within, whispers, like the petals of an iris, the reedy blossom which weathers and is not trodden down for long. Line 1693. A meeting, yes, for to digress, what lurked below but for to guess. What lurked below, a clicking sound they found. A clicking sound, an acrid smell, what neighbors fell indeed did dwell, what neighbors lurking deep there underground. A spell to cast, a tunnel closed, no aunts to be a threat to pose, and onward to the north a slight descent. The cavern narrowed to a pace, the ceiling sloped to narrow space, and to the west the curving passage went. It opened to a chamber low, a fathom high or maybe so, but wide 200 paces there or more. A floor of tiles and triangle shapes, a trap to ponder for escape, and holes of 3 at every vertex be. What holes of 3 a mystery, a pressure plate or trigger be, crazy Ivan, ever impatient he, who ran across the chamber floor, halfway to the other door, triggering a plate within the floor. What Ivan felt and Ivan knew, a pane of flame of brightest blue, scorch marks burnt there low upon the ceiling. From jets of flame of brightest hue knew Ivan that his time was due, staggering a flame, he indeed reeling. The blue flame set his clothes alight, an orange hue that was burning bright, smoldering his charred corpse hit the floor. Impatience be the death of he, for gold he lusted crazily, a death knell from his lungs expelled, then silent be he evermore. For how to beat the pressure plate, which trigger indeed was by weight, to cross the floor indeed her mind did toil. What nostrum air for to abhor, the fate of Ivan to deplore, to cross but not end up like he, flame broiled. To cover tiles 6 or more and spread her weight across the floor, with weight implored her hope to drop it not. With weight deplored she spread her legs, no pardon of which for to beg, as dropped she to the floor, an answer sought. With weight explored she made her bid, as slinked across the floor she did, her weight ignored by loathsome pressure plates. Across the floor she made her way, past where Ivan's charred corpse lay, which reeked of beef braised o'er an open flame. Which reeked of beast braised o'er an open fire. Across the floor the danger passed, the fire trap having been surpassed, ever to be a landmark, Ivan late. Across the floor they made their way, beyond the corpse of Ivan late, his memory shed with not a mote of ire. And up again into the hall, one by one they ceased to crawl, peril divest, unto the west they went. Peril divest they passed the test, pushing onward to the west, the way before them to be as was meant. Foreboding doom a cavern loomed, a plight to blight it was assumed, high and wide it reeked of apprehension. What sport to see like boulders be, omen ignored by all but she, belief withheld in complete suspension. For what could leave such spoor behind? What beast could thus be so inclined? Her mind did whirl with such consideration. What tailings mined by fell design so wantonly were left behind, abandoned with replete reiteration. What whopper told was to be knowed, what fish song for the bards to goad, anxiety and apprehension met. It like a whale to which all would pale, confronted by one fit and hail. A worm to know, but was the surest bet. A worm to know, but to forego how best to rest, for so should it show what monster lurk beneath the dirt to skirt. What monster lurk for yet to see, way too big for to demean, perhaps too big for us to even hurt. Too big to know, best to forego, best gone before this beast did show, best long gone for this vermin worm did show. For by the size I would surmise, just of its whole, it would be wise to move beyond and thus avoid this row. And move beyond but for a spell, nay to expunge that dreadful smell of spoor to know, indeed to even taste. Assault upon the senses true, to hold one's breath till one turns blue, and anxious to vacate, indeed with haste. A scatfest but would implicate, or dung thus flung would replicate, the sensation accosting her senses, like hot breath be upon her nape of neck, sense of impending rape, graveyard earth and awful rotten menses. Impending lunch, this owned was she, nay silent but predatory, nothing that big could move so soundlessly. Indeed it be apparently the worm had got the drop on she, to eat and breed its drives quite simple be. Paralyzed for a moment she, lusted luncheon intimately, but days she whirled and gazed most frightfully. For how upon her had it come without a sound, alerting none, its lunch lust indeed most predatory. And there she stood agape as well, till Claudia had broke its spell, denying she the lustful worm its meal. Catania, face-plant on the ground, before the wanton worm had ground her into pulp, once gulped with righteous zeal. And wanton righteous zeal, you know, Claudia sooner would forego. A phylactery thus she had in mind, a tincture of but love it be, that for the worm in mind had she, the stopper popped into its mouth to grind. And well the fell worm to deplore Claudia, who she'd soon adore, a swooning love so deep and by design. Claudia ne'er to miss her mark, the worm's great maw so deep and dark, into which went love potion number 9. Confusion wrought the simple worm to eat or breed, which end to burn, resolved she to lay writhing in a swoon. To eat or breed in peril need, love need eat, love to breed, withdrew she to go seek a mate, and soon. And there went that wanton worm into her hole, her lust to burn. Claudia pulled Catania off the ground. How long to last, I do not know. Haps best that we had better go, for best we be but nowhere to be found. It yawning like a serpent's mouth, the yawning portal to the south, the vaguest glimpse of light there somewhat be. The yawning portal open to a twisted cave I would construe, upon its walls reflecting light to see. And with the light that bounced around, they heard a distant gurgling sound that echoed off the cavern walls as well, like water bubbling in a stream, welcoming, or so it would seem, deliverance indeed. It cast a spell to break, progress to make, harbinger of underground lake, soon to know of what significance be. Soon to be and soon to know, for what awaited, for to implore not, but best to wait and see. And I will stop right there. Thank you for listening.